Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soul Led Living. Today we have a special election day episode. We are going to get messages from America. I'm recording this in advance, so I have no idea what's happening today. I don't know what the landscape is like. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think we can have just like a regular episode. It's such a big day, both exciting and scary and all the things. So I thought it would be fun to talk to America herself to see what's going on, what are the plans, not necessarily predict the outcome by any means. I'm not in the business of that, but wanting to hear, similar to how we did the Mother Earth episode a while ago, there's so much, they are entities. America is like a full-on body of energy and has a lot to say. So I thought, let's have her on the show today. So welcome to the show, guys. We're going to get messages from America in, respect for that. I'm actually wearing a shirt. I don't think you can really see it, but it says, "Not my first rodeo." Like, this is my America kind of Western look shirt. Anyways, all right, let's get into messages from America. So first off, you know how we call her like a her? I kind of feel like she's more like a they. I wasn't really getting like female or masculine energy. Where like Mother Earth is like super feminine. This is not. America, like we're going to refer to her as a her, but I'm telling you the vibe is a little different. But anyways, she's super excited to be here and has such a beautiful, like kind of fun vibe as well, which I was surprised, like quite light. Almost like, ooh, I have goosebumps. Almost like a Leo type energy, like just born to be a star, definitely, like was destined to be a star. And funny enough, that was kind of one of the messages she was saying. She was like, I am like a pop star who like made it really big, who did super well and became very successful. But with that, a bunch of people around me, my managers, quote unquote, really took advantage of me. So I got mad. I went within myself. I've been in this stage of like really going in, kind of destruction, Kali type energy, like breaking shit down, breaking shit apart to reemerge back to my true self, to my roots, and with nobody taking advantage of me. So I thought that was such an interesting way, because if you really look at America from like the global view, she's a star. She truly is, but has been abused, has been taken advantage of. Kind of Britney Spears-ish, but without the mental illness. And she's trying to come back to her roots. So we just see her kind of going through the stage of rediscovering herself and really getting ready to like root into my true identity. So I felt in many ways that we were past like the confusion. We're still going to see some struggles, of course, but not so much the confusion of who I am. We're actually going into the season or into the time of the, of the movie or the episodes of where we're going to start to see her really start to root and define who she truly is. And a lot of it is going back to her roots. So it's not like brand new information. It's going back to like the root and to the original intention of like what I was created for before I got taken advantage of, projected on, abused, lack of boundaries, all these kind of things. So truly looking at her as like this star that like did amazing, but then also was, taken advantage of. So that's really where she wanted to come from. So I have 5 different messages that she'd like to share. And let's get into it. Message number 1. She wanted to start off with saying, I am beautiful. Like America truly is beautiful. And even, the songs they teach us growing up as kids, like America the Beautiful. She truly, truly is. And actually she said that part of that whole like COVID movement where we couldn't travel and people had to like go out, and we did a lot of like nature exploring, and the state parks had more visits than ever. Just like nature in general was having like so much visit. She was saying that was like part of her plan, that she kind of like that movement was by design, almost like asking everybody to revisit her and to revisit what really makes America beautiful. And this whole like movement towards nature in general has a lot to do with her asking you to like really see her for who she is, and really start to see people for who they are and all that. She, like, if there's one thing that she like can't ask enough of, is to like get outside, go, like meet people, like get offline, like see people in person, like communicate, talk to people, because you will find that America is beautiful. And I feel like I recently had this experience. As you guys know, I live outside of Asheville, and we had these horrible floods a few weeks or months ago. And I've been through a lot of natural disasters because I grew up in Miami, so we have bad hurricanes all the time. And even as a kid, I realized that I just really learned that when there is a natural disaster, truly the best in people come out. That's what I really saw. Like, I remember as a kid going through Hurricane Andrew in the 90s and meeting my neighbors and playing with friends and sharing food and sharing water. And it was really a beautiful experience, despite like not having electricity. And it was obviously an awful time for a lot of people. Benny, as a kid, lost his entire house during the storm. But I was like, my first experience that like people are actually quite kind when there are disasters. And I saw the same thing here outside of Asheville. Like, people helping each other, people sharing resources, like, makes me want to cry. And that was what, like, she is like saying. Sometimes, of course, it's not like she's causing the natural disasters or caused COVID or anything like that. But part of like her mission over the last couple years has been to like get people out to both see the nature and reconnect with each other, because America is truly beautiful, is what she wanted to say. Like, she's like, I am beautiful. Second message I was getting is we're going to see a huge, huge health movement. Like, America, because part of, I guess, like the American dream was to be free, to be joyful, to be happy. Like, that was kind of like the original, like this freedom of expression. But she's saying that like without health, there is no freedom of expression. And that a lot of like the fighting right now is a lack of health. Like, it stems from mental illness, like being stressed about like taking care of our families, our people, our children, our elders. And a lot of that has to do with sickness. And that was like never part of the plan. And actually, like, we're starting to see how connected that is to our joy, that like health is part of our joy. And that was a promise of America. And so we're going to see a huge health movement. I was even like kind of feeling there's a few, this one, and there's another message that I was like, oh my gosh, like, there's money to be made, funny enough. Like, America is going to, over the next 10, 20 years, is really going to prosper. So there's like a good opportunity to actually invest in some stuff. I was like, oh, there's some stocks, guys. Like look out for health. Like, if you have a gut feel, this is not financial advice, first of all, I'm going to say that very clearly. But if you're into that space, look out for health. If you're an investor, and like, there is prosperity coming from this area. And also I'll share the next one as well. But huge health movement. This is being guided a lot by like these new souls that have come in to the earth. Our young children that are showing like crazy sensitivities, but totally just because of, I have goosebumps. Sorry. This is like so from also like the kids, but also like the millennial, like we're going to see like the millennial mothers really, really show up, and just like enough is enough. We're already seeing some of this, right? Like, we have seen people getting in front of like Kellogg's and, you know, kind of saying like enough is enough with like this bullshit that you're putting inside the cereals and this kind of stuff. But there's this huge movement to health. And what's funny is that America says that, like, when she was talking about like getting abused because she was like popular and kind of a hit, part of kind of what made America like get into this mess is greed. And it didn't like start off with greed. It actually started off with like excitement to innovate in this like freedom or whatever. But that freedom turned into kind of like the Wild West, where like money was more important, or profit was more important than actually like the values. So I wonder if we're going to see some like regulations, which in a way is like not a, you know, like it's not a conservative thing to regulate. Obviously, like most people that are more like traditional don't want those regulations. And we're definitely moving towards like going back to the roots. But I feel like we're going to see some regulations in a way that might even seem like kind of un-American, but it's really out of like the safety of greed, basically, like to kind of keep us safe from falling into that again, like almost keeping ourselves in check. It's not even that one person is bad or like one industry is bad. It's truly like this American drive to prosper and to like be wealthy. We all have it, like our it's in our DNA, because like we're all immigrants. We all came here with that drive, and we all have this like drive to prosper. And sometimes that will like overlook some values. So I kind of feel like we might see some regulation starting with like anything that has to do with like health or food, to kind of keep us in check, because America made a ton of money on food. If you think about it, like these processed foods, all that kind of stuff, like it built America in many ways. It was like exciting to be able to like innovate and make orange juice or make cereals and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of money came from that, because that is very American to like be free and to make things. But not too. It was almost like the fence was too wide, and we're gonna see some like regulations there, when it comes to specifically creators, like businesses almost. So probably won't like that, but I feel like it's very reasonable is what it looks like it will be. So huge health movement, a lot of like messaging about health, a lot of regulations we'll see about health, and innovations about health as well, like things that are more fun than necessarily like taking away. Third message, there really is going to be a revisiting of the Constitution. I feel like this is where we're going to see a bit of a struggle and a little bit of a knocking heads. And it's because in the Constitution is her truth. If you just take away from like the way people interpret it, there is truth there. Kind of reminds me of the Bible. Like, like so many different people interpret the Bible to like just use it for their reasons, like there's things in there that can make you be an abusive husband and say that like Jesus told you to be an abusive husband. Like there's some things in the Bible that can really like do that if you want to interpret it that way. So there's going to be this like revisiting. I almost feel like people are going to even start to know the Constitution more than ever before. Like it makes me feel like a lot of us Americans like don't even know the Constitution, right? Like we don't know anything. Like we learned it when we were kids and we don't remember any of it. But it feels like almost we're going to start to get educated in a way that is surprising. Like we might even see some like TikTok stars or Instagram stars like really start to break it down. We're going to see that. And this feels like this comes from the Supreme Court. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the Supreme Court in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. I know that the next president gets to nominate or appoint, excuse me, I don't know if it's one or two justices. So obviously that's coming, but do know that America herself is going to balance. Like she is almost like choosing. So we might even see like weird things about like who actually gets picked. It's going to look like the president is picking, but it does really look like she has an agenda, and there's a very strong energy around that. So who knows, like maybe they'll try to put somebody and it doesn't actually like pan, and like the next person has to get put in if we see something like that. But there's going to be this this focus on it, and it does seem like this is kind of what makes people unhappy. That there are people just like the Bible, right? That like they want to interpret it the way that they want to, and actually like it's not supposed to be. And it just looks like this really feels like the compromise between both the left and the right, that there are going to be there's not going to be winners and losers. There's going to be compromise, and it's going to stem from this like legal document that says like who she is. It's her speaking up, and she's like not asking for it to be interpreted, but to actually like be its truth. So how do you even do that? I have no idea, but it looks like we're going to like, she's going to bring those documents forward, like the things the four founders put together, like that's really going to come forward. And I feel like we're going to be more educated on it than we've ever have before. Message number 4, innovation. Innovation is going to come from the light this time. So it's going to look like tech. but it is, we're going to see a different type of tech, like a different type of like Silicon Valley come forward. And because it feels like whatever was happening in Silicon Valley was kind of specific and almost like, I don't know, you didn't need to be like so talented, I guess, to do what was happening over the last few years, all these like the tech boom and stuff like that. Where this new tech is very purpose driven and it looks like not most people can do it. So my sense is, and that's what brings a lot of like light for some reason. Like it's almost like people, like God is like gonna handpick some people that can actually like do. It's from talents. It's truly like talented people are gonna bring this forward, and I think we're gonna see it heavily led by first generation kids. So, you know, first gen or even maybe second gen, but it makes me feel like these people are almost not imported, but almost like very new to America and kind of like here for the dream. Like yeah, there's something about like their parents or their roots that are that they came to America like specifically for the American dream. I know that has changed a lot, but like, and I don't know. It's we're gonna see innovation. I'm full of goosebumps. We're gonna see innovation come in a different way, and this is where again, like there's money to be made. So just like watch out for some companies because there is going to be some tremendous innovation in the next 10 to 12 years, and this is where America shines. Like she's like, this is my thing. Like this is where I like blow it out of the water, and we're gonna see her. It makes me want to cry. It almost makes me feel like we're gonna watch like an athlete that had a really dark time, or an artist, you know, like a musician or you know, an actor that had like a really dark time, and she is going to resurface, and we're going to see it through innovation, but like good innovation, like very light led innovation. So yeah, it's super excited, and this is like where we're really going to see the shine. We're probably not going to see too much of it right away. It feels like we'll see it more. We're going to see beginnings of it like 3 years from now, but more like 5-7 years is kind of when we're really going to start to see it. Is it AI? I actually feel like it is. It's funny that there's a lot of focus on AI. I'm not sure. I feel like some of these things might be like AI ran or AI infused, but I actually think it's more energy and environmental and medical based. So that's kind of, yeah, where it's from. It's going to be, it's innovation for like the good, which I guess is what's different than what tech was in Silicon Valley, that it was like social media, like things for us to have fun, gaming, like all these things that were, we could either, it's almost like the food industry, right? It's like, oh, so cool, we can like make everything more convenient, but at the same time we're poisoning ourselves. So that's kind of what I guess the last few years of Silicon Valley have been. Like that boom came from that kind of stuff, like things that we could have gone without, you know, perhaps, or that they went too far, right? Like a social media, that there's so much good. And obviously I'm here on YouTube and on podcasts and using all the things, but also so much bad that came from it. Where this innovation feels like it's truly because we have to move the world ahead. Like it's a little bit more survival based. It's like we must innovate or die. So it comes from a more purposeful place. It's not super, yes, people are going to make money, but it's almost makes me feel like it's going to be driven by like scientists, and by people that like want to see the world move forward rather than like make a buck. So, which is different than what we've been seeing in Silicon Valley. I mean, every guy, you know, was like, oh, like every tech dude with a hoodie was like, oh, I'm going to come up with an idea so I can make a quick, you know, few $1,000,000 and whatever, like live on with my life. That's not, it's just not going to be that easy. It's a little bit more complicated. And I feel like a lot of these people that are going to innovate have already been working on it for years. Like we're going to see people be like, oh, I've been working on this concept for 20 years and it finally worked. Not like a guy who's in college and started an app. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. So look out for the scientists. I mean, I think like if you're in investing or you're into any of that, look out for, people that have been like studying bodies of work for a long time, people that are like experts, that's who we're gonna see. Like if they're obviously it might not be their own company, but like if we see them in a company, that's where we're gonna see the innovation. So super cool. And this is something America is super proud of. And she's like, this is where I'm gonna shine. And this is like quite unexpected, and it's what turns things around. It's actually like what makes America number one again. So really beautiful, but we might not see it yet. But we're seeing the beginnings of it. And it's going to come from nurturing this, and almost like somebody, I guess whoever is in office, like knows that this is important and understands that like these are the businesses that need space and need like funding to be able to like do what they're doing. I don't think it's the president per se, but it almost makes me feel like it's maybe there's even like a team that's opened up in office that's like about this. I'm not sure, but and it works out because it makes me feel like there's so much that was learned from like the Silicon Valley boom and the tech boom, and this is just like the do-over that she gets. And this is part of, again, her being like, yes, I'm a star, but don't take advantage of me. So we're gonna see that. So really exciting. That made me like almost want to cry. It was very beautiful. And then our last message is, I think some people might call this propaganda, but we're gonna see some messaging. We're gonna see some messaging that like kind of returns back to American values. Like not yet, but I bet you even like next election, nobody's gonna be able to even run unless they're running on like American values, is what it makes me feel like. There's some sort of there's like team spirit or something coming, and it's going to come from messaging these like values. And somebody a little younger is going to not interpret or rewrite the values, but find the essence of the values. Like there's going to be these people that like kind of represent American values, and we're going to see that be that's why I want to say it almost looks like propaganda, but it's not. It's like, it is marketing. It looks like it's very intentional. But it's like, it's to help get like team spirit back. We're going to see some like gathering up the team again. It makes me remember Captain America, like one of the first movies, right? Like from the Avengers or whatever. He kind of did that. Like he did like publicity and stuff like that. I was like, oh, Captain America. Something like that. It's like, this is the vibe. And we'll see some of these like people kind of parade around. Maybe we'll see like the rise of some like cool military people that are like doing a good job, or there's gonna be like American people that like, yeah, are almost like the Avengers, let's say, and they're going to be kind of moved around so that we can remember our values and message that way. And this messaging may bring a little bit of rub, similar to the Constitution rub, because this messaging is going to, and I guess this is like kind of why people pick up like Civil War vibes, but I don't really see it as like actual like war. I see it more like when a team, you know, have you ever been in a company that you're like trying to get on the same page, or even the culture's trying to shift? That happened to me. Like, I remember working at a magazine in Miami, and the culture was definitely shifting. There was like a new person that came, and they were shifting it. And it was either like, you were gonna kind of move with the new leadership and move into this like new culture that was definitely more about like pay for play. Before, we could write whatever we wanted, and then they were moving more into like, oh, if our advertisers pay us money, we're gonna write about them. So that was a big shift for me and for a lot of people on the team. And we saw this like this kind of mass exodus, right? Like a few people stayed, but then there was a lot of people that like left because of the messaging and because of like the new culture. So I see something, I don't see a mass exodus or anything like that, but it's like kind of, there's going to be some convincing of like, guys, we have to, like, this has to be the culture. Like we have to all get on the same page with the culture. And we're going to see more people get on board like with this culture that is being like explained. And we'll see some people, I think that's also maybe why this definitely has to do with immigration. Like I definitely see something happening with immigration. And it's not because we're going to get rid of people because we don't want people in our country or anything like that. It's not. It has more to do with like the energy of like who's gonna stay in this culture and who's not. I mean, I think about my own culture, Cuban, right? So, but my parents are exiles, and there was like a certain type of Cuban that came first, and they were super hardworking and very much like down for the American dream, like worked hard, like the way most a lot of immigrants do. But then, funny enough, like now communism has been in Cuba for so many years that like it's really made people, I don't know, not lazy, but yeah, like kind of you lose your motivation because if I study super hard, I'm still going to make the same amount of money as a person that doesn't study hard. So like why try so hard if we're all going to kind of like make the same stuff? Like there's nothing that really, that ambition kind of gets like lost. So we've had family come to the US and kind of think that they want to like become American. And actually, like I've had some people tell me that are like Cubans and the newer Cubans, and they'll be like, yeah, I kind of feel like I just want to go back to Cuba. It's a little easier there. Like it's not the best. And obviously we don't have any freedoms, and it's definitely third world country stuff, but it's really hard to make it in the US. Like it's hard work, all this kind of stuff. So that is kind of like almost the culture of America has pushed out these people that I know, these Cubans, right? And it's not like nobody like told them to leave, but almost they were kind of energetically pushed out, if that makes sense. So we may see some of that, and even our own Americans, like some of us moving to other countries and things like that, because the culture of America, it's not that it's changing, it's just, it's going to get more defined. And people, sometimes we love like loosey goosey, in a sense. So we're going to see it get like a little bit more defined. And by default, kind of, people will be positioned with the idea of like staying or going, if that makes sense. So we'll see a little bit of that. But I don't see it being very dramatic. I see a lot of it being like a compromise and kind of a negotiation, which I know sometimes negotiation looks like fighting. But it comes from like, we're trying to, just the same way a company would do it, like or like a family or whatever, like we're trying to get to our values and rewrite them and share them and get everybody on board so that we can be a stronger team. So it might look like, again, like propaganda or things like that, but it's really to have a strong team. That's why we're going to see that. And it's like anything, it's not going to be fun when it first starts because it's going to be a little bit of fighting, a little bit of negotiation, but all from a good place. Message number 6, although America is again looking forward to kind of coming back to the values and her identity and all that, that doesn't mean that Americans don't need to adapt. And that's something that like she says is very American, is adaptation, innovation. And America is no longer a new country. And she's talking about this because she was talking more about like home and land and living. And there's something about Americans specifically are struggling with homes, like space and how we live, right? Where like if you go to Europe, everybody tends to live in like smaller spaces, and Americans, because it was a newer country, they're like we've gotten used to like having our big homes and all that kind of stuff. So she is saying like we're going to go back to values, but that doesn't take away from a lot of like not in the word's not innovation, but almost like adapting, basically adaptability to the present. America, it doesn't have a bunch of land like it used to. There are more people coming than ever. We live longer, so it's a little bit more crowded. So we're gonna see specifically like the way we live, like that is not gonna get any better. And even like money in land and real estate is just not gonna be what it used to be. Like I don't know, it's almost like it's not like the place necessarily to make a ton of money anymore. Like we're gonna see a much more of a ceiling than we saw before. Like not that prices get capped, but it's just like the pricing is not going to get better, if that makes sense. So we will see adaptability in different ways. I know it's super annoying to see like these small houses and affordable living and all that kind of stuff, which is a rub. but it does look like that's something that the US like adapts into. I mean, if you've ever been to Asheville, we have the Biltmore House. In Miami, we have Vizcaya. And there are these like old homes, right? The Biltmore, owned by the Vanderbilts. And it is crazy to see that a family lived in that house, right? It's enormous. It looks like a hotel. And obviously they were very wealthy of their time, but I mean, I think we have wealthy people like that as well. I mean, different because there weren't as many people, but like there's regular people don't really have homes like that anymore, right? Like this is, I think, I don't know, I've never seen like a super celebrity's home, so maybe I could be a little off, but it just makes me feel like, maybe that was kind of regular for that kind of wealth, but we just don't see that as much anymore. Like we see these like smaller places, and we're going to continue to see that. So she was just like, that was just one example when she was talking about like land and homes, but she says that there will still be adaptability to deal with quality of life and kind of like how many of us are there now. Like America has kind of boomed beyond that, right? Like beyond where like people kept coming and all that. So that is a little bit of a struggle, especially with the elders, but we're going to like find other ways to like, be in peace with each other. And that adaptability is still something we need, even though we might see ourselves going back to our roots. And the last message I was getting was to trust her. She was saying that, as humans, we get really like caught up in the day to day and the struggle and the fight and all that. And we think because there's this struggle and there's these fights that healing isn't happening, but think about your own body. Like when you're healing something, let's say you're really sick and you take an antibiotic, like your body is at war, it's fighting, right? And if you would see it from that, like if you would take a little microscope and see all that fighting going on, you'd be like, oh shit, we're in a bad place, but you have no idea that the medicine is doing its job. And she really feels like she has overcome this kind of dark period of hers where she like really had to go in and just like kind of not even be around, almost like she was not even there in a weird way, if that makes sense. And now like she really went into this cocoon, and now we're going to see her have the energy to come out again and be more clear on who she is. So she says like, trust me, trust the people. Remember that America is beautiful. Believe in like the hearts of the people. And we're all like to blame for the greed that we have here. That happens to all of us. If I tell my kids, hey, I'm going to give you a box of cookies, like they're going to try to eat all the cookies. Like they're not bad people, even if I told them to eat two, but I put the whole box of cookies in front of them, like they're going to be tempted to eat the whole box of cookies. So we have all done that as Americans, and we're going to see ourselves. And even if that means we have to kind of regulate ourselves a little bit and kind of keep ourselves safe. And she says like, that's what we're working on. We're working on kind of getting to these like safe boundaries so that we can continue to be what is beautiful about America, what's great about America, which is like the heart, the brave, the innovation, the ambition. Like that is something we don't want to kill by any means, but also by keeping ourselves safe as well, to keep ourselves away from the greed. Maybe we don't put out the whole box, something like that, but we'll see a little bit of it. But it's going to be very mild, and it's still what makes America beautiful and great is still gonna like is what she's trying to bring forward. So she says, trust me, and America the beautiful. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Happy Election Day. Love everybody. Love yourselves. Remember that when you get to a place where you hate others or hate another side, you can no longer really trust your inner voice or your intuition. You have been taken over by hate and fear. So a lot of like kind of what you're thinking or what you're saying is no longer super valid because you've let yourself get to that place. So let's try to keep our hearts open during this time, no matter what comes of it. And just remember that there is so much more into play and that we are on the other side, no matter the outcome. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.